Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So this was our live drop we did yesterday. Again, exclusives going up on Patreon pretty much at least twice a week, sometimes 3 or 4 times. Again, deep dives. These have been a lot of fun, a lot of new information coming through, a lot of new channeling. This one was about reptilians underneath Los Angeles. Oh yeah, they are there. They are there right to this day. And this one was a couple days before that. And this was all about El Elyon and the hidden history. Oh, there's so much more than meets the eye. But speaking of Elon, you could see Starship's 7th flight test. Oh, that's coming. You know, Starship is, again, this is, for some people, this is mind-blowing. For other people, well, we should be way past all this. You know, why don't we have bases on Mars, permanent bases on the moon, et cetera, et cetera. And then for others, they just look at this as this is just for public consumption, because the real reality is something that most people just aren't ready to handle. You know, you got to remember, too, we got our Space Force during the first go-round of President Trump. And, you know, what's the next go-round going to bring? Will it bring out-and-out complete disclosure? Let's see. Well, 2025, 2029, yeah, I think it will. I think it will. You know, United States Space Force is a reality. Department of the Air Force. This is one of 2 independent space forces. The other is, yes, China. And of course, if you think that emblem looks familiar, it's standard Starfleet symbol from Star Trek. But when you look closer at Star Trek, you look at like Gene Roddenberry, we look at 2001 Space Oddity, we look at Stanley Kubrick, we realize these are all insiders. These are all insiders in the know. Again, there are those in the secret societies that have known all this all along. They've understood there are other species, intelligent species on Earth with a lot more technology than we have, and life abounds out there in the world. Now, this was curious. Now, this could be something war-related. It could be all sorts of things, or maybe it'll be a mind-blowing disclosure coming in the next couple days.
I just will say one last word, which is, I hope this is my last time at this podium, at least for a little while. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, the only thing that would bring me back is an unexpected event in the next few days, which, as you all know, is totally possible given everything you've seen over the course of the past years.
Yeah, so what type of unexpected event is planned? You know, that's what we have to say. I mean, doesn't it feel like it would be almost unexpected if nothing happens between now and, you know, Inauguration Day?
It would be surprising if absolutely nothing happens. But then again, I think in some ways would be a relief, because then I feel like maybe we're on some type of path where things are going to be okay for a little while, possibly even maybe get better. I don't know. I hope they get better. From all the evidence I've seen, though, it's still like full steam ahead with all the things that the previous people that were in control were doing. But we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see how things go. And I'll just, you know, kind of stay hopeful.
You know, every day that goes by, it kind of feels to me a tiny bit less likely, and just a tiny bit less likely, that WW3 will manifest, because, you know, we've always gotten from the guides that it was something it's hard to stop, because it is one of the last things they can do to maintain power and control. You know, again, in time of war, everything is suspended. Everything that's normal stops, and you go to a completely different place and way of doing things. Here, you have a lot of buzz. Dr. Stephen Greer has just declared UFO, UAP disclosures happening now. New whistleblowers want to expose everything, gravity control, UFOs attacked with exotic energy weapons, reverse engineered alien crafts in the next 72 hours could change the course of human history. Yeah, again, there are those that still wonder, and then there are those that have absolutely no doubt. And, some that will disbelieve no matter what they're presented with. And, again, there's a lot of disclosure that's been well underway. It's speeding up. A former Green Beret has come forward to discuss anti-gravity crafts that were tested in Area 51. Again, the word is out that there will be something before inauguration that comes out. So is this that unexplained event? Will they just show us a craft? I mean, that's really perhaps the next thing. Maybe they will actually show us a craft before they actually show us either bodies or say hi to our little friend here.
I know, indeed.
Meanwhile, let's listen to Matt Gaetz.
Seen some patterns emerge that are absolutely a threat to national security, whether this is of human origin or not. Look, we have members of Congress who believe that not only are there extraterrestrials on Earth, but that they have built bases and that they are operating out of bases. I have personally met with people in uniform for the United States military who believe that there are hybrid breeding programs going on right now. Now, I've not seen evidence to suggest that all of those things are accurate, but when those claims arise, I get hot under the collar when we just don't get straight answers. We've seen some patterns emerge that...
Yeah, absolutely. Again, threats to the nation, threats to the world. Really, again, if you translate it as threats to the world system, then yeah, I think there are some threats to the world system out there. I think natural organic humans are perhaps the most dangerous thing to the system as humans come online. So if the U.S. government officially admits to having recovered crashed UFOs, which they have, and biological remains of non-human life, which they have, what next? I think they would be more likely to show a craft necessarily than ET bodies, just, extraterrestrial and or maybe terrestrial species that we've just not officially been introduced to yet. Remember, there's a lot of instances of all sorts of craft, from Foo Fighters, tailing not just Japanese, but our own fighters in World War II, or Germans, the Luftwaffe. Again, they always seem to pay attention to military things. They've again gone over military bases and supposedly shut down, very, very sophisticated hardware with no problem, caused all sorts of interference just to basically say, that, hey, you are not the top of the food chain here. You are not the most technologically advanced. You are not the most powerful force on the planet. This is something that's been well documented. I mean, so many instances. We are past the thousands. We have so many instances of different forms of contact, of evidence of all sorts of very, very advanced technology that goes throughout all of recorded human history that we know of. This is something kind of disc shape, again, caught on video. This is with thermal imagery, so it wouldn't be seen by the naked eye, but it is there. There's a lot that we cannot necessarily see visibly, but is there. Again, we understand that there's other dimensions, and depending on the vibratory frequency of any particular being or object, they may or may not appear visible to you, but it doesn't mean that they're not there if you can't see them. And this is what the science has given us. It was a reality previously where if you saw things, you would get locked away and they'd probably want to do a full frontal lobotomy, or they'd want to burn you as a witch. Now it's just okay. It's like they have to give it to us. They have to give us, as we start to realize more and more, they have to confirm, the existence of other beings. When you go back to the ancient wars, Hannibal, Rome, and Carthage, again, there's documentations of other beings watching, guiding, and perhaps even directing and interfering with the wars that humans, did against each other, executed against each other, all throughout our history. And it's amazing how consistently, if we look, we'll find these things. Carthage was right here, as you see, in the north of Africa. And as you can see, you cross the Mediterranean, you go over to Italy, and we have Sicily and Sardinia, Corsica, beautiful, beautiful area. Carthage was a big military power. There's something here to do with Atlantis. Again, when we look to what is called the Sea Peoples, I think the reason they're called the Sea Peoples is because they came from areas that were devastated from war and the technological faux that they had. As we know, Atlantis was a civilization that kind of self-destructed.
I'm looking at this and I see that the humans, how they go into these wars, and they're, given information and probably directed from a little bit higher up. But, as above, so below, on every single level, because you look at the Romans, the Colosseums that they would fill people in, and they would put a couple fighters in there, and it was just great fun to watch them kill each other. I can totally visualize this on a higher level up in the sky, where they get a bunch of humans really, really angry at each other, and then they just kind of watch the humans fight, very much like red ants and black ants. They truly will get along. They'll get along just fine until you stir things up, until you shake up that jar, or until you mess up that dirt, or you stomp around on the ground. And then they'll start going after each other, trying to kill each other, because they don't understand that the external threat is external. They just don't get it. Their world is too small. And I think that's where we're at. Our world is very, very small, but we are learning new things.
So when you see these wars for control of the Mediterranean area, it really, again, in so many ways, these are extraterrestrial wars. They've always been extraterrestrial wars. For the people of Italy, if you're familiar with this, the Carthaginians used elephants. Now, you didn't typically see elephants in Italy, but in this case, these wars, the Punic Wars, they were utilized. And again, Hannibal is thought to be one of the greatest military leaders of all time, and this is basically at the transferring of power to the Roman Empire, which in my view is absolutely a what you would call a fallen Anunnaki empire. So these battles were fascinating, and what's fascinating too is you see some descriptions here describing portents of the winter of 218 BC. The Roman historian Livy says, a spectacle of ships gleamed in the sky. Wait a minute, 218 BC? What are ships doing up in the sky? A spectacle of them? It sounds like there's tons of ships in the sky. The Second Punic War had begun, and the enemy general Hannibal was on the verge of a series of victories. Maybe these ships in the sky were odd cloud formations. Do you think? But his choice of words suggests something shining or gleaming, qualities even today associated with UAPs. He reports another appearance of ships in the sky in 173 BC, when a great fleet allegedly appeared in the sky. In the spring of 217 BC, with Hannibal still threatening Rome, he says round shields were seen in the sky over central Italy. So again, nothing has changed here. We think these times are different. It's only because, once again, humans are going to become cognizant of the fact that they're not the top of the food chain here, that there are beings with vastly superior technology that are orchestrating and literally playing with humans, so to speak. Again, the Vimana, flying chariots of the gods, are all over the Indian epics. This is why Hinduism is not the dominant religion on the planet, is because it tells you too much truth. It tells you we live in a holographic universe. It tells you that you are an eternal soul that cannot die. It tells you that you have many, many lives, reincarnation and transmigration of the soul. You're not even always human. It's not that you even are human at your very core in nature. You are consciousness. You're having a temporary human experience. And also just the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of humanoid species in our galaxy alone. This is all common knowledge. They knew the shape of our galaxy. They knew how much room, the span of the galaxy. And they also, gave instances of other worlds where beings existed and even described these worlds, these lokas. So there's too much knowledge that is out there openly, and that's why it's been semi-suppressed. Again, it's 66% of the world's population comes from the Abrahamic tradition, which ultimately is, again, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, which these things are hidden there, but they are still there if you really look. If you look, they're there. So here's a occurrence. This is Toms River, New Jersey. As you can see, these ships in the sky. People have always saw these ships. And what we saw with drones recently, people have saw that in the past too. They've seen all sorts of different comings and goings of beings with advanced technology. And this is why they were called gods. And nobody ever thought they were the actual creator of this universe. That whole monotheistic point of view was something that was revisionist history and came about much, much later in time. In fact, again, Yahweh and his Asherah is the oldest inscription we have of anything with Yahweh. Talks of Yahweh having a consort, a female companion, and being one of a type of being that, again, has much more technology than we do. 154 BC, more flying shield-shaped discs appeared. One night in 104 BC, people of two Italian towns watched flaming spears and oblong-shaped shields rushing at each other in a kind of aerial battle. Again, there's many instances of these battles of the gods, which were all much more common in times in the past. But this is the time that we're going into again, the Bronze Age. So, again, the Bronze Age is not a golden age per se. And what's the difference between the Bronze and the Kali Yuga? In the Kali Yuga, we are clueless. We are totally clueless. We are totally in the dark. In a Bronze Age, we understand the bigger picture. We're part of an intergalactic, interdimensional war, of which Earth is just one tiny little outpost.
Well, I also believe we suddenly understand the little teeny tiny sliver of light spectrum that we see through, our human eyes see through, is very, very small compared to how much information is truly out there. So finally we're able to have that knowledge and understanding in a way that it can be accepted for more people. But I think in a dark age, science is created just to keep us in a box, to keep us in the dark, to keep us, from discovering that, there might be external influences out there in my life that are, making things go good for me, or they're making things go bad for me, or they're causing fights between my partner, my spouse, my kids. These little entities, some might call them demons, some might call them brownies, but there's beings everywhere, and they influence your life daily. And depending on where you are at frequency wise, you have, very close contact with them, or they have close contact with you. But we do have some control over that, and it resides inside of us. And I think that's what we realize in a Bronze Age.
Yeah, absolutely. Reality totally changes, and that's what's happening right now. So in 100 BC, a very large, round, shield-shaped object traveled across the sky. In 91 BC, a huge fiery disk was accompanied by sonic booms. Later, same day, the people in Spoleto watched the UFO's vertical approach and take off as a great gold-colored ball rolled down the sky towards Earth and rose up again. 74 BC, thousands witnessed a large flaming object of molten silver crash land between two armies on a Roman battlefield in Turkey. The object was shaped like a large storage jar with pointed bottom, something like a nose cone. In 43 BC in Rome, spectacle of missiles and weapons and shields was seen to rise from the horizon up to the sky with a loud clashing noise. You know, again, all of our modern movies are based on the same stories just being retold, and with that that yeah, these are what we would call ETs. These are advanced beings. Again, some are as terrestrial as we are in the bigger picture. It's not just all people from out there or even other dimensions. And in fact, most of what we see is really beings from here, but still there are those from out there that are coming. How do Cindy and I know? Well, from our direct experience and contact with them, because we've met quite a few. And when we say we met quite a few, what do you mean? Again, mostly using your third eye, your pineal gland, which we work with so many people. We have done energy work, spiritual coaching, life coaching, Vedic astrology charts on literally thousands of people from every continent besides Antarctica, unless somebody called from Antarctica that we don't know about. We've worked with directors of Homeland Security. We've worked with people in different military forces, et cetera, people that have come from all different walks of life. And we can tell you that there's a large percentage of people that really know. They've had direct contact as well. And it is a much more curious and interesting world and reality out there than you would think. I think, again, guys, you got to survive the next 3 to 5 years. That's it, plain and simple. Because on the other side of that, staying as organic as possible, we are going to a time of myth and legends. We are going to a time of magic and manifestation. So what lies ahead, while it might not be, all perfect, rose-colored glasses, nothing could ever go wrong. It is much better than what we have experienced. In fact, it's mind-blowingly better because the potential is just literally the sky is not even a limit. There is no limit. And this is what I want to get across, is that what we're heading into is about as exciting can get on the other side of this bumpy patch. Because, again, the power structure has kept us in the darkness. They want to maintain power for themselves. They won't be able to maintain complete control. They will maintain power over those that willingly go along and want to be salvaged by the system in the same manner that they've utilized people. And it sounds kind of crazy for those of us that are awake. Why would you ever knowingly walk down that path? People will walk down that path, even when they understand, again, what type of beings they've been giving power to. But those of us that stay organic and will find ourselves getting better in every way, we're going to find ourselves getting healthier, and we would be getting healthier on the whole if it wasn't for the system doing everything they can to do the opposite. Once, again, the system is removed, I really think that if you are pregnant with a child right now and you're giving birth in 2026 or later in this year, 2025, that child could probably expect to live 150, 200 years at least. I would think healthy years too. I really think, again, and it's not waiting for med beds. It's not waiting for technology. It's just nature. The changes that are happening naturally. again, through the sun and through the frequency change, and also just the fact that this toxic system won't be there anymore. As you see something flying by at very high speeds there, that's going to lead to humans becoming so much more than they've realized that they really are.
Well, I think the energetic aspect of it is finally starting to get uncovered. People are realizing that there's something different about their bodies, and we can activate these energy centers in such a way to create and to manifest a different world. And while so many people are busy having to work, they're not able to focus on doing the things that they need to do to wake up those energy centers to help them do things like manifest the world that they want to live in. But it's an option. It's out there. I think what's really stopping people is this busy, wheel that they keep so many people running on. And then it's also the belief system, and it's also people just really kind of afraid of it because they don't really understand it. But we've worked with quite a few people, and quite a few people have had certain experiences that you can't just go and talk to a psychologist about, not somebody who's trained in the system. And I think that's what makes us different, is because we're taking those people who've had these really different experiences, and we're able to just really sit down and have a chat with them and help them come into alignment and help them understand, what's going on in their life when everything is changing so much. So you have a lot of really good people out there that want to help, but not everyone has the experience and understanding from the aspect that Mike and I have seen.
Yeah, and again, I want to reiterate that when we talk to so many people, a high percentage of them are having the same sort of experiences. We're not alone. In fact, I would say of the core group that follows this channel, most of you guys are contactees. You really are, in one way, shape, or form. Most of you are very aware of your guides, and at least I would say, a real solid percentage can and do receive direct communications from their guides. Sometimes maybe not as clear as you would like, other times very clear, just like Cindy gets. So this is part of the awakening, because again, in the future, humans are going to be so much more than what we have been in the Kali Yuga. This is the exciting part. Flavius Josephus, Titus Flavius Josephus, perhaps the most well-known historian of the ancient world, described the army in the clouds just prior to the start of the first Jewish-Roman war. This is a giveaway, a huge giveaway here. I mean, this is, again, these wars, they might appear to be human, but they're not purely human. No. And they're not divinely inspired at all. No, far from it. So a man born into a priestly lineage who later became somewhat of a prophet to the Roman Emperor Vespasian, Josephus' account of the cloud chariots seemed eerily similar to that which is dictated in the book of Revelations. The description from Jesus that his second coming, his judgment day, will come to earth via an army of angels, for lack of a more sophisticated description. The occurrence of this incident in the clouds was recorded by Josephus in 66 AD, on the eve of the aforementioned Jewish war, a war founded in centuries of ethnic differences and then in financial greed, before finally escalating into religious intolerance that led to destruction and pillaging of the temple by the Roman emperor and army, and destruction of the temple in 70 AD. Josephus, from the information that we have gotten, and I should say me more, because Cindy didn't get a confirmation. Cindy did get some information on Josephus, but I am pretty sure, I would say that I feel very strongly that in reality Josephus is that which is called the Apostle Paul. as Josephus has such a similar writing style and vibe, and was literally in the same places as the Apostle Paul. So what you have to understand is, again, everything is told from a revisionist point of view. The second coming of Christ is something that is accessible to all in yourself, and that's Christ consciousness, which is, again, ultimately another take on Krishna consciousness. And again, that's something that will make people that are dogmatic pull their hair out and again, have all sorts of issues with. But again, this has always been about dividing humans. In Genesis 11, Tower of Babel, it's simply stated right there. We can't have humanity united. We need to divide them. We can't have them having functioning pineal glands. And, again, why Cindy and I are able to do what we're able to do. And again, most of our regulars have activated pineal glands and are able to do a lot of things that we're able to do. And really, humanity would be doing this all the time. When you have an activated light body and activated pineal gland, you have more senses that you're able to tune into. It's just that simple. It is just that simple, and that is the future reality. That is what's coming. It will be normal with all those that stay clear of the system's technology, because, again, the technology is mimicking those things that come naturally. So, with so many of those things that you get as a biblical mystery, well, again, who are we to question God? But again, it's not God. It's humans writing this down. It's not the creator of the universe writing all this down. It's humans. So again, it's just part of the control matrix. When Yeshua said, greater things you will do, he really meant it. And I do think that is something he truly, truly said, because he's talking about the potential that lies in each of us. Potential which is going to be activated in this time. So these wars are guided and carried out by these more advanced beings with the express purpose of always bringing about the outcome that will benefit them the most. It's just that simple. And there are competing groups that, again, are competing with each other. There are certain parameters they have to go by, like the system has to stay in place. But yet, some will be perhaps a little bit more benevolent towards the average human. Some will be a lot less benevolent and very malevolent towards the average human. The outcome has to be of a certain order, but yet there is a lot of leeway, as these groups, again, when you're looking at these beings, they are just operated totally by ego and greed and selfishness. So when you see this is all totally again part of the bigger plan, and how you control people. There's no stronger way of controlling people than their religious beliefs, the monetary system, and again, just basically all the things that we take to be the foundation of who we are. So when you look to history and you see this in 66 AD, instead of helping Israel win the war with the Romans, again, what did you see? You saw angelic hosts seen in the clouds and chariots, armed soldiers. Wait a minute, armed soldiers and warlike beings up in the clouds? Again, I was in my teens. I think I was 16, I want to say, when it hit me that what we were looking at with the Old Testament was describing, what we would look at as an alien invasion scenario, which happened thousands of years in the past. And again, if you watch the last two Patreon exclusives, you understand how all this comes together. When we look back and we're talking about Josephus and his times, people are always trying to say, oh, it's taken out of context, etc. There was a star resembling a sword which stood over a city, and a comet that continued a whole year. A comet that continued a whole year that we were watching. Again, comets are often ships. And that's part of the reality. That second moon that came and stayed with us for a period of time, that was no moon. It was a ship. It docked in orbit. It left. I mean, the stuff that they give us is ridiculous. It's like still believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny.
Well, I look at it as they're treating us like kindergartners, you know.
It is. It's like they're pulling out the coloring books to go and give us our history. No, we don't believe this. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no logical sense. But people, again, believe it because it's fear-based. And the fear of burning forever or what have you. You don't burn forever. In fact, when you don't have a body, you can't burn. That's just, it should be something that people would recognize. Well, wait a minute, as a ghost, right, or a spirit, a soul, you don't really have a physical body, so how are you going to feel fire? Because, again, no depth to that thinking, no following it out, and no ability to see on the other side of what's really happening and to see with your own eyes. Because that eye that gives clarity, let thine eye be single, and then your body will be full of light. That eye has been clouded with fluoride and everything else. So you don't know, and everything is basically fear-based if you're following that line of thinking. But what you see is, again, the fact that these wars are completely instigated by these beings who use humans as if they are just pieces on a chessboard. And when you look to the Lord of Hosts, that it literally translates to God of War. Hosts are armies. It's military. So when you see, that, the book of Joshua, when you see the conquering of the promised land, again, this is military, and this is totally an invasion force, and this is what we've been getting directed by the whole time. Beings that play with humans as if they're nothing but pawns, because they view humans as nothing but an energy source, a resource. And what does host mean? Historically, it means a multitude of warriors. Warriors. And these aren't angels. These because even the word angel is a mistranslation. It means a messenger. It's a messenger. It can mean a deputy. Yeah, so when we look again to Flavius Josephus, who is he really? He's absolutely Illuminati before Illuminati existed. He is the insider of the system, and even Alexander the Great, as this says, trying to debunk it, and his battles saw flying saucers and UAPs. Because they're guiding our history purposely. They're putting in place the people that they want in place to run the world in a way that will produce a lot of loosh. So, of course, so much of our technology is handed to us by these beings. And then as you see here, how does this Biden gained 6 inches, or at least 4 inches? You have Jill on the highest heels she could possibly get in there. This one rolls out, and he's gregarious. His energy is absolutely, completely different than the other ones that we see. There's multiple. We understand there's multiple Bidens. There's multiple of anybody in importance. 47. I think there's 3, right? How many? There's still 3. There's three Trumps. Again, there was 6 or 7 Hillarys. Then you got people with frogs' necks, again, in positions of authorities. Why? Well, because, some of these are not even human all the time. They might have been a human, and then they're either cloned, or it's somebody in a mask, or it literally can be often an ET, a being that's, let's just say it's not Homo sapiens sapiens, as Bill is sound asleep there. And the mask on Hillary's neck is not smoothed out. How about Harris's? Why do they always have the same thing going on? Again, looks like gills. This is part of the big reveal. Don't forget, show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels. Well, again, the word that it comes from, malakim, can mean messengers. Or also the root. Look to the root. It's derived from a root meaning to dispatch as a deputy. Right? So what are you really talking about? You're not talking about angels like guardian angels. No, that is such a misinterpretation. It's as if the true power structure is sending deputies to go knock on your door and to check in on you.
So it's about, translating that 3D to another realm. So the police officers and the soldiers that we have, the soldiers are the hosts. And then the deputies, literal deputies, as above, so below. We got our power structure from the power structure that is above us. And I do believe that there are plenty of beings and in political positions that are not exactly human. I do believe that there's something wrong with that picture.
It's all part of the great reveal. Again, root and ground yourself. Have a daily spiritual practice. Be as sober as possible. You want to become the best you can be, and that means weaning ourselves off of everything in the system, which is not something that a lot of people want to hear. I do think there is the hope out there that we can still maintain some things that we find very, very handy and fun and enjoyable. But again, we don't want to be under the control of the system, because the system just wants to use you again as a resource. And, they've even given you so many clues there too, because again, shepherds and flock. What ultimately happens with the flock?
It's not good.
No, again, it's the awakening that we are going through. So may you all be blessed and protected by the truly benevolent beings out there. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.